I'm so glad you're back. I want to tell you that I'm really prepared for today, but I'm not. So for the first time, I'm going to have to actually use notes to do this little lesson, but I think that'll make it shorter, which is awesome, right? So yesterday I read to you the opening paragraph of Eudora Welty's wonderful and amazing story, A Worn Path. In the story, the character Phoenix Jackson goes into town to get medicine for her grandson. The story is a journey. Now that plot is maybe the oldest one in the world. Man goes on a journey, or a person goes on a journey, is universal. It's big. And what I found when I read the story, I noticed how well crafted that first paragraph was. What great design went into it. And so I came up with this activity, and I didn't use it all the time. I just used it occasionally. It is really for people who want to write. It is not an activity for just everyone. I did use it in my class a few times, but I was careful to select groups that wanted to really write well. So the idea here is you use a writer's master structure, but all your own words. And we'll go through it right now, and then I'll give you a few little pointers about it and a few little reactions that my students had to it. So this book is the story and its writer. It is full of short stories and full of some craft essays that writers can use. It's a lovely anthology. This is not an advertisement for this book. I don't, I have no idea. I have, 5 subscribers? But that's what I'm using today. And A Worn Path is the title of the story. And so my exercise is based on this first paragraph. So the story begins, it was December, a bright frozen day in the early morning. So I had my students take out a piece of paper and write, first, give a time of year and a time of day. So they didn't have to use necessarily the month, and they could use a season. But the idea in the first sentence is to introduce a time of year and a time of day. So I would let the students take a few moments and do that, and then I'd ask if anyone wanted to share. Then the next sentence would be, far out in the country there was an old Negro woman with her head tied in a red rag, coming along a path through the pine woods. Now that's a pretty massive sentence if you think about it, and it introduces our main character. So the second part of the exercise is place a character in the time and place you've already listed, and use color and movement in the sentence. So there has to be a color in the sentence, and there has to be a type of movement in the sentence. So the character has been introduced. It's the second sentence, and the character has been introduced. This is the character that's going on the journey. The next sentence is, her name was Phoenix Jackson. And so, name the character. Now, of course, the students could do a sentence of exactly that structure. Or they could say, he called himself Ishmael, right? Or they could say, call me Ishmael. They couldn't say that really, because that's, Melville. But what that does is, you'll notice there's already, in the first 3 sentences, variety of length in the sentence. And that's actually really good for readers. Readers like variety. They respond positively to it. So the next sentence is, she was very old and small, and she walked slowly in the dark pine shadows, moving a little from side to side in her steps, with the balanced heaviness and lightness of a pendulum in a grandfather clock. Wow, that is one long, beefy sentence, all sorts of ideas. So the fourth thing the students would do is give the characters time in life, age, essentially, in some way, and use a metaphor or simile to describe something about that character. So now we're talking about poetic formation and comparison. This sentence is going to be bigger than any of the sentences so far. But notice there's more variety here. The next sentence is, she carried a thin, small cane made from an umbrella, and with this she kept tapping the frozen earth in front of her. Describe an object the character is using. Now, we're really pacing our way through this paragraph. We're getting it done. And all the time, the students are not using her words. They're using her structural ideas. So the next one is, this made a grave and persistent tapping in the still air that seemed meditative, like the chirping of a solitary little bird. Give at least one sensory detail, like sound, and compare it to something. Now, that's it. That's the entire exercise. But it would take a whole hour, and this is why. Each time we got through a sentence, I would ask if the students wanted to share what they were doing. And because I chose this for writerly classes, boy, were they ready to share. They wanted to read out. And so there was this huge variety of beautiful writing that was coming out of it. Quite frankly, the first time I did this, it was just an experiment to see if it might work. And it worked amazingly. I had a fellow teacher come in while I was doing this assignment, just kind of coincidentally, and he was stunned when he got to hear these students writing. He was like, this is amazing writing. Why is it so good? Well, because I was doing exactly what I recommend to all my writing students. Find a writer you admire and see how that writer manages what you admire in the writing. Now, not all students and not all teachers are going to write fiction. So be it. And truth be told, once that assignment was done, if they did that one paragraph exactly as I said, they followed it, they created this new thing, they could stop with that. Or they could continue it as far as they wanted to. Now, of course, with a journey story, it's going to be a little bit longer. But what I found was students really started thinking about things like detail, specificity, comparison, variety of structures and links in sentences. And when they start thinking about that at the sentence level, they're going to be starting to understand that any piece of writing that has that kind of granular attention to structure is actually going to yield very engaging material. Essays and poetry, fiction, memoirs, they can all benefit from this type of training. So I highly recommend any teacher to try this exercise, especially writing teachers, of course. And the other thing I want to say is, I think English teachers should devote themselves to writing every once in a while. Maybe even if they don't really like writing, which stuns me. How do you, anyway, even if they don't really like writing, teachers should spend some time writing every year, because writing is a way of understanding your world, of thinking, and by doing it, you become better and better at understanding what your students are facing as they look down at a blank page. Give it a try. You may really love what you get. You may not, but it certainly is what you might call a great mental workout. So that's it for today. I hope you have a glorious rest of the day. It's beautiful here today. And I hope to see you again, you gorgeous people.